Well, g'day team, it's your old mate the Kiwi Badger here on a fine fielding morning. Could have done more alliteration actually. On a fine Friday morning and friendly fielding. There we go. How are you all? I hope you're all well. Where are we going? What are we doing? Seems to be the same old question anytime I catch up with you guys. Well, we're heading north. We're heading to Napier. We're heading to Napier. So I bought some motorbike jeans online, which turned out to be too small because I'm a fat bastard. So I'm riding up to Napier to go and exchange them for a larger size. Well, Badger, why don't you just send them back in the mail and reorder another pair? Well, team, the answer to that is quite simple. If I did that, I wouldn't be able to get out on my new motorbike and go for a ride on a beautiful summer's day. I've taken a day off work to go and do this, and on the way back from Napier, I'll be calling into a little town called Waipukaro. That's where my mother lives, not for much longer, and it's where I grew up pretty much. My mother has sold her house and is moving down to be closer to the majority of grandkids. I also want to take this opportunity to talk about the boulevard now that I've done a few Ks, many hundreds of Ks, about 700 Ks I've done. So first and foremost, the looks of the bike. There's bits about this bike I like the look of, and there's bits about this bike I don't like the look of. I think the droopy front headlight is not too bad. It is an acquired taste, and fortunately I like it. I didn't used to when I first saw the bike. I thought it was kind of ugly. Not now. I like it. The tail light, big triangular thing. Not so much a fan of. And the rear guard is a weird shape. If you've got the wheel here, it doesn't come over the wheel. It sort of, the bottom of the guard is straight, and I think it's designed to show off the rear tyre because it's a massive rear tyre. It's a 240. So it's the biggest rear tyre Suzuki's ever put on a bike. So yeah. Looks wise, the paint job, I like the colour. It's got a bit of a racing stripe on it. I like that. The wheels are nice. It's an overall, it's a nice looking bike. I wouldn't say it's the most beautiful bike, but by far and away, it's not the ugliest. Appointment. Look, the controls are fairly simple. You've got on the left hand side high-low beam, hazard lights, indicators, a horn, and a passing light. You know, your little high beam switching McDoodly over here. And on the right hand side you have a kill switch, a start button. That's it. And the center console is broken up to two, so your instrumentation. Up the front here above the handlebars we have a tachometer, a gear indicator, and all of our lights like neutral, warning light, engine check light, indicators, and high-low beam. Down on the tank, sort of Harley styles, you have a speedometer, an odometer, and trip counter, and a fuel gauge. Your functions on your displays, again, very simple. You've got an odometer and 2 trip meters. That's it. I like it. It's simple. I don't like all this high-tech convoluted stuff. That's why I've always had older bikes, because they're simple, people. They're simple. So yeah, riding position, yeah, forward controls takes a bit of getting used to when you've had mid controls and rear sets for 20 something years, but I'm getting used to it. I'm fairly upright. I'm slightly leaning forward. My arms are pretty much straight out with the bars. Handling. This handles like the Titanic. Not that it sinks, but it's a big, heavy boat. A big, heavy boat. It weighs, I think, 700 pounds. I'm not sure. Go and look the stats up. it's a long wheelbase, it's a low slung bike, so with that you get next to no lean angle. You scrape your feet as you're going around roundabouts and low speed turns in town. Not ideal. Again, coming from a sport bike beginning, I'm used to scraping my feet, so that's not too worrying for me. However, on New Zealand roads, especially the windier stuff, at open road speeds, you scrape your feet a lot on this bike, so you're going to go through boots and whatnot pretty quick, I'd imagine. So handling, not the greatest. Engine braking, this bike has got an absolute ton of engine braking. An absolute ton of engine braking. A scary amount of engine braking, which is nice because it means that you don't have to use the brakes all the time to slow down this big heavy beast. But I learnt the hard way not to change down too quickly and dump the clutch for engine braking, because them pistons don't want to move in an accelerated pace when they don't want to, and it locks up if you use the engine brake too quick or relieve the clutch. This has got a heap of torque. It's got more torque than it has horsepower. It's something like 123 horsepower and something like 130 newton meters of torque. It's not the most torque out there on the market, but it most certainly is up there. So it's got a heap of torque. It's a 5-speed shaft driven 1800 or 1783, I think. 1800. 50 degree V-twin. On just open road, highway kind of riding, the bike tour isn't bothered. It doesn't even, I don't think the bike even knows it's got another person on the back. I suppose it's a benefit from a big heavy bike having big suspension and a big motor. It just trundles along doing its thing. This bike's a 2015. It's done 14,000, I guess, miles actually. 15,000 miles this has done. I thought it had done 15,000 kilometers, but as I found out on this bike, having been a limited edition that comes from Canada, what's happened is the previous owner, or the first owner, bought an insert for the speedo here and converted it to K's, and the speedometer reads in kilometers an hour in 20 kilometer increments, 0 all the way up to 220. But what's amusing about it is it says 140, 160, too fast, 200, oh shit. I thought that was kind of neat. But anyway, so the speedo on this bike is in kilometers an hour and the odometer is in miles, which for me was confusing, because when the fuel light was coming on after 130 miles, I thought it was 130 kilometers, because I really wasn't paying attention to how long or how far I'd been riding. I was watching the odometer, and yeah, I thought the bike was the least fuel efficient thing on the face of the earth. Turns out this bike does, for my first range test, did 170 miles all up from brimmed tank to dead empty, running out on the side of the road. 170 miles in total. 35 miles of that was on the fuel light. So that turns out to be about 260 kilometers on a tank, full range, on that particular test run, on that particular day, taking that particular route, as we say in New Zealand, Americans say route. And the route that I took on that day for the fuel range test, it involved this hill that we're about to go over, and other hills like it. So it was elevation, it was ascent and descent, it was a lot of curvy stuff, a lot of upshifting and downshifting. So the range wouldn't have been a true indication as to what you get on simple highway cruising. I've heard up to 290 kilometers on a full tank, just cruising on like main highways. Also too, I think what didn't help with that fuel test is the way I ride the bike. Having had the VTR, which was so very soon, hopefully, well not very soon, but the M109 Gorge, which I've done quite a few videos on, and that died. The M109 Gorge died. There was a massive slip back in 2011, I think. Was it 2011? I can't remember. I'm making it up at this point. But a massive slip occurred, one of many, and the New Zealand Land Transport Authority decided enough was enough. They weren't going to continue to spend millions clearing the road every time there was a slip. So what they did is they shut the gorge. They shut the gorge and diverted traffic over the Pahiatua track and over this road here. Now this road, I'm not a truck driver. I do know that trucks prefer a certain gradient, or there's a certain gradient that you know, makes it really hard for the trucks when climbing or descending. But this road is quite a steep road for trucks, and as is the Pahiatua track. But trucks don't go over that because the corners are too tight. Bit of fog, eh? So the corners are too tight for trucks over the Pahiatua track. So between the eastern side of the Ruahine Ranges and the western side, this is it in this part of the country. This is it. Trucks have to come over here. So needless to say, this road was never designed. For heavy traffic, either by way of vehicle weight or traffic flow. But a lot of traffic comes over this road every day. I know that back in the day, I heard a stat that through the gorge every day 80,000 vehicles would travel, whether domestic or trade. Yeah, really not designed for it. So they're going to do a bypass at the cost of billions of dollars, which is going to replace not only the M109 Gorge, but it's going to replace this and the Pahiatua track as the main thoroughfare for daily traffic from one side to the other. Another thing we've got to do on our way up is got to drop off some brake pads. Before I sold Wolfie, I'd actually ordered some new brake pads, a whole new set, and then the dramas happened with Wolfie and I decided to sell Wolfie, but the brake pads hadn't arrived. They've now arrived, so I've got to go and drop them off to the new owner. I'm sure he'll be glad to have them. All the new brake pads.
Well, aren't you awesome? Oh, she's gorgeous, isn't she?
Finally arrived, so.
Good excuse for a ride, eh?
Hey?
Good excuse for a ride.
Oh, I've got to go up to Napier and pick up some jeans, so.
Awesome.
Ordered some online.
She's gorgeous, isn't she?
Yeah. Does right. Bit of getting used to. Big heavy boat, but.
Yeah, no, she's gorgeous though.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. See you later. Radio team, I think last we saw, I was getting pulled over by the police. Batteries. I didn't start recording, I forgot to start recording when I left that encounter. And then I've run out of battery. So I've just changed my battery. I'm still on the bike, so it's a good indication that I've still got my license. I was caught speeding. Kind of close to losing my license territory too. Fortunately, as I was talking to the police officer, we talked about my occupation. I think I'll say gets a bit of respect from police officers. So I left that encounter with a warning. Very lucky for me. I never ever, if I'm pulled over by the police, I never ever make an excuse for speeding, ever. I don't get off the bike and go, this is the excuse. I get off the bike and I apologise for my actions. I acknowledge that it's my fault and there is no excuse for speeding. And I don't give them a hard time for doing their job, because that's all they're doing, is doing their job. Okay, I've been in a job before as a prison officer where I had to do certain things because it was my job. Yet the people I was dealing with took everything personally, like it was an attack against them. And they did not realise that I was just another human doing what I was paid to do, and unfortunately for them, they just had to submit to what was my job at the time. Anyway, so I apologised. He asked me if I knew how fast I was going. I said no, I did not. I said no for a couple of reasons. A, I didn't know exactly how fast I was going. I knew I was going a little bit faster than the speed limit, but I didn't know how fast. So, in answer to his question, no, I did not know how fast I was going. So, I knew I was going a little faster than the speed limit. As soon as he activated his lights, I pulled over straight away. I turned the vehicle off so he knows that I'm not going to try and run away. I got off the vehicle slowly, not in an aggressive manner or in a manner that leads him to believe that I'm going to be a problem. Just casually get off the bike, take my gloves off, take my helmet off. You don't have to do that. You can stay sitting on the motorbike fully clothed if you like. But I've got earplugs in and there's no way I was going to be able to hear what he said. So off with my gloves so that I could manipulate my helmet and take my earplugs out, which is what I did. As he walked towards me, he had a very serious look on his face. I smiled at him to let him know that I was not a threat and I was not going to be a problem. He smiled back, so I know that he's in a semi-good mood, irrespective of my actions. So I smiled at him, he smiled back. We've got that first contact, and it's a friendly one, which is important. He has greeted me, he said good morning. I've said good morning, asked him how he is. I've asked, I said, how are you, officer? I'm acknowledging the fact that he's got the rank and that he's in charge of the situation, which is important for some people in authority. They like to know they're in charge. So, acknowledge their authority by using their title. Or you can, I have done in the past, said, "G'day mate," been pretty casual and let them know that, you know, I see them as a friend. This is all important. It might sound like a whole lot of horse shit, but it's all important and it's all about human interaction. Anyway, so I've said, "Good morning, officer, how are you today?" I've inquired as to, so I acknowledged his position. I have asked him how he is as a person, and he said, "Good, thank you, how are you?" Now I know he's open to dialogue because he's now asking me how I am. If people mirror your body language, speaks volumes. It means that they are willing to engage in communication. Okay, so I've already established this, and he said, "How fast? Do you know how fast you're going?" I've said, "No." He's told me. I've said, "Oh, well, I definitely didn't realise I was going that far." He said, Is there any excuse for why you were going as fast as what you were?" I said, "No, there's no excuse. I do have a reason as to why I might have been going faster than I should have." And he said, "Why is that?" And I've said, "Well, I've only had the bike for a couple of weeks," which is true. It's different to any other kind of bike I've owned, officer, and that's also true. I'm still getting used to the bike, that's also true. And it doesn't feel like you're going as fast as what you are on this bike, and that's also true. So, I said, but then I've gone and I've said, "That's no excuse for speeding." And he said to me, "Would you like to come and look at the radar?" And I've said, "No, I believe you." And why shouldn't I? I know there's a lot of places around the world where you hate cops and they're crooked and you can't believe them and none of them have got integrity, but I like to think that the New Zealand police, a vast majority, have integrity and they're good, down to earth people. Some of them are assholes, don't get me wrong, but you get that in any walk of life. Doesn't matter what you do, you'll always strike good people. A vast majority will be good, and you get some assholes. Anyway, this guy was alright. So he asked me if I still lived at such and such address. I acknowledged that I did, because under New Zealand law, there's a certain amount of things you have to do if you operating a motor vehicle and you get pulled over for whatever reason. You have to give them your name and your address. You have to, by law, irrespective of whether a crime has been committed or not, and that's different in the States and that kind of thing. Okay, so under New Zealand law, he's pulled me over, he's asked me for my licence. I've given him my licence, which I have to carry by law if I'm operating a motor vehicle. He knows my name off my licence. He's then asked me if my address is still such and such. I've said yes, it is. And then he's asked me, he said, "Are you still a prison officer?" And I've said no, that I'm not a prison officer, that I used to be. And I have told him what my new occupation is. And then we stood there talking for about 20 minutes. At which point he probably feels, because we've had such a good conversation and we've bridged the gap between offender and a police officer, talking as equals in our respective occupations, there's professional courtesy there, and he has said to me, surprisingly, "I'm going to let you off with a warning." And I've said, "Hey, look, thank you very much. I will endeavour not to speed. I don't normally speed like this." And he gave me a look as if to say, "Whatever." But I said, "No, honestly, I don't normally speed. As you know, I don't have a lot of speeding tickets or infringements on my file in recent times. That it was an oversight on my part, and I do apologise. Because I'm fully aware if I'm speeding and I mess things up, then it's guys like him who have to come and respond and deal with the consequences of other people's poor decision making and action." So yeah, I've thanked him, wished him well, said have a good day, stay safe out there, because, you know, I don't wish him any ill. He's a good guy, and he let me off with a warning, which surprised the shit out of me. I thought I was going to be getting a ticket for hundreds of dollars. Yeah. So anyway, long story short, if you're speeding and you get pulled over, don't give the cops a hard time. They're just doing their job. You shouldn't have been speeding in the first place. That's my 2 cents anyway. We're now in the city of Napier. Napier, the Art Deco capital of the world, even. So Napier suffered a big earthquake in the 30s, smashed the city. Not only did it smash the city, it actually gave the city more land. Part of it popped up out of the sea, which is now developed into residential and commercial properties. So it was rebuilt in the 30s in the style of Art Deco, and there's some beautiful buildings around. Awesome place. Used to live here before I moved down to Palmerston North and Fielding, actually. Beautiful weather up here. Great place for lifestyle.